Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Padurikacharya Ashtoto the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Padurikacharya Ashtoto the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Sri Isopanisad Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this third day of January 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Sri Isopanisad, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we will continue and I think complete our study of Mantra 12 today. Andantamak pravishanti Yesam bhutamupasate Tato bhuya ivate tamo Yosam bhutyamrataha Andantamak pravishanti Yesam bhutamupasate Tato bhuya ivate tamo Yosam bhutyamrataha Andantamak pravishanti Yesam bhutamupasate Tato bhuya ivate tamo Yosam bhutyamrataha Andantamak pravishanti Yesam bhutamupasate Sambhutimrataha Andantamak pravishanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yau sambhutyamrataha handang tamak prabhashanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yaho sambhutyamrataha Santosh handang tamak prabhashanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yaho sambhutyamrataha Jamal handang tamak prabhashanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yahu sambhutyamrata Glenn handang tamak prabhashanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yahu sambhutyamrata Vibhanya handang tamak prabhashanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yahu sambhutyamrata handang tamak prabhashanti ye sambhutamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yahu sambhutyamrata. So we've read these synonyms. I'll read the translation and pick up the purport. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods, wait a minute. Translation. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal Absolute. So Srila Prabhupada quotes from Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:20, 20, and 23, it is said that only unintelligent, bewildered persons, driven by a strong desire for sense gratification, worship the demigods for the temporary relief of temporary problems. Since the living being is materially entangled, he has to be relieved from material bondage entirely to attain permanent relief on the spiritual plane, where eternal bliss, life, and knowledge exist. Sri Isopanisad therefore instructs that we should not seek temporary relief of our difficulties by worshipping the dependent demigods, who can bestow only temporary benefit. Rather, we must worship the absolute personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is all attractive and who can bestow upon us complete freedom from material bondage by taking us back home, back to Godhead. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7:23 that the worshippers of the demigods can go to the planets of the demigods. The moon worshippers can go to the moon, the sun worshippers to the sun, etc. Modern scientists are now venturing to the moon with the help of rockets, but this is not really a new attempt. With their advanced consciousness, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and to reach other planets, either by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. In the Vedic scriptures, it is said that one can reach other planets by any one of these three ways, but the most common way is by worshipping the demigod presiding over a particular planet. In this way, one can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, and even Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in this universe. However, all planets in the material universe are temporary residences. The only permanent planets are the Vaikuntha lokas. These are found in the spiritual sky, where the personality of Godhead himself predominates. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 8:16, Abrahma bhavana loka punaravartanojana mamupechita kunteya punarjanma navidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Sri Isopanisad points out that one who worships the demigods and attains to their material planets still remains in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by the gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and the moon are required for illumination. Outside the universe is the vast and unlimited Brahmajyoti expansion, which is filled with Vaikuntha lokas. The biggest and highest planet in the Brahmajyoti is Krishna Loka, or Goloka Vrindavan, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself, resides. Lord Sri Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka. Although he dwells there with his eternal associates, he is omnipresent throughout the complete material and spiritual cosmic manifestations. This fact has already been explained in Mantra 4. The Lord is present everywhere, just like the sun. Yet he is situated in one place, just as the sun is situated in its own undeviating orbit. The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Isopanisad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo-worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such pseudo-religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the garb of worshipping the Lord. The atheists and impersonalists lead such foolish pseudo-religionists into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheists directly deny... Oh boy, that's a mistake right there. Okay, let me mark it. The atheists directly deny the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the impersonalists support the atheists by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. Thus far, we have not come across any mantra in Sri Isopanisad in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons, and if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance, arising from an imperfect conception of the absolute truth. All right, we're going to stop there. Yeah. What do you have there? Yeah, but is it plural or singular? I have the atheist directly deny. Okay, so that's the mistake. Thank you for noting that. Yeah, that matches up. But you see, if you have impersonalists, you should have atheist. Anyway, I'll think about it, but it needs some adjustment. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, the Isopanisad is continuing to draw a very stark contrast between those who are immersed in ignorance, who worship something other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and those who are full of knowledge, who worship the Supreme Lord. So, just a little note here. Here it says, those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the Absolute. Now this is the way it originally read. No impersonal. But that presents a little bit of a problem, because if you read the purport, the Sanskrit word asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence. Sambhuti, the Absolute, sambhutyam, see that at the end of the last line there? Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead, who is absolutely independent of everything. So you see the problem. What we have now in the translation, originally, those who are engaged in the worship of the demigods enter the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the Absolute, the personality of Godhead. Does that kind of brings a kind of a doesn't work, right? So there has to be some resolution to that, and that's why I recalled back, I think, text 9, where we had a similar thing. Let's see if we can go back to text 9, which is about simply cultivating knowledge. Bear with me on this because I think it will be illuminating ultimately. Text 9 says, yes, those who engage in the culture of Neshan activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Sounds familiar, right? It's just like the present one, the translation. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. You see? And where that so-called comes in, that so-called is the last word, rataha. Notice the word rataha there? So that rataha word, as I explained once before, is a kind of an idiom in Sanskrit that gives you a clue that it's so-called. We find that in the Bhagavad Gita with Veda Vararata in the 2nd chapter. Yamimam pushpidam vacham prabhadancha vipashchada Veda Vararata patanajadasti varana. Krishna is criticizing there those who are enamored of the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, want to go to the heavenly planets, and they don't want to deviate from the Vedas. So they're within the Vedic paradigm, within the Vedic culture, so they focus on those sections of the Vedas. There's kind of Trividya. There's 3 Vedas that have that, as far as I can tell, from the 9th chapter, which were in the evening class. The Rig, Sama, and Yajur. So there are all kinds of mantras and sacrifices and worship, different gods. A lot of it is Indra worship, sun god, like that, Ganesh, to improve your condition on this planet. And if you're really successful, go to Indraloka and enjoy like anything for a long time. Yeah. So that's bona fide. That's part of the Vedas. But Krishna criticizes those who simply think that that is the Vedas. Pushpitam vacha means very flowery words describing these higher planets. Pushpitam vacha. Prabhadanti vipashchita. Those who are supposedly wise. Vipashchita means students of the Vedas. And they're Veda Vararata. They're so-called students of the Vedas. They don't really understand the ultimate goal of the Vedas, which we learn from the Bhagavad Gita. Vedaischa sarva ahameva vedya. We forgot to turn it off. Okay. Thank you, Baba. Vedaischa sarva ahameva vedya. Krishna says famously in the 15th chapter, 15th verse. It's easy to remember that reference. And he says, of all the Vedas, I am to be known. In other words, the goal of all the Vedic study, Vedic literatures, which includes the Vedanta Sutra and the 4 Vedas and the Puranas and the Upanishads and everything, ultimately culminate in Krishna worship and knowing Him. If that's not your goal and you're trying to base it on the Vedas, then you're misreading the Vedas. You become Veda Vararata, so-called student of the Vedas. So with that in mind, we go back to our present verse, and what do we find here? Now I've lost my place. Yes. Andamtamak pravashanti. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region. Oh no, that's text. Yeah, that's text 12. I'm sorry. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do worshippers of the so-called absolute. That could have been a solution, but this is the one that the second editor or the first editor found, and we left it impersonal absolute. It's certainly not false, but it includes more than just the impersonal absolute. You can worship, all kinds of conceptions of the absolute, but unless it's worshiping Krishna according to the teachings of the actual Vedas, like Bhagavad Gita and Vedic knowledge, you're worshiping something that is not going to ultimately help you. And this is really a central problem, is that people are worshiping all kinds of things. In the broadest sense, what does worship mean? This is a very important concept. As a rhetorical question, sorry. Worship, the basic principle of worship is, first of all, you focus your attention on it. You focus your attention, and you're putting energy toward that conception or that object or that person or whatever it may be, in hopes of getting something back. Okay? Now, in the case of Krishna, what are we praying for? It's not that we hope to get something back from all these efforts of chanting and everything, but what is it we're praying for? We shouldn't be praying for anything material. That's a mistake. That's a big mistake. A lot of people They pray even to Krishna for that. He says there are 4 types of pious people who come to me. One of which is the distressed, big group, That's one of the main reasons people go to church or worship the Lord. Please, my child is sick, or I'm sick, or I need to pay the rent, or a million different things. And so that's one group. Another is literally those who are looking for money or some equivalent, artarti. Those who are in knowledge, or let's say those who are curious, like people walk in here all the time for the first time. Yeah, I got this pamphlet or something, or someone told me about it. I got it on the internet. I said, I'm going to check it out. And so they come in, they're curious what's going on. Sometimes on Sunday, they'll come in and they'll be standing in the back, checking it out. I'm not going to let it in. I'm not going to get brainwashed, whatever. But they're checking things out. That's good. They're seeing the deities. They're hearing the name. That may be the only one and only time they come here, but it's to their eternal benefit. And then there are those who Krishna really praises in the Bhagavad Gita. Jnanis, those who really know something about Krishna, something about the Vedas, and they want to increase. And so they come and they worship me with faith. He said, these are the best. Tesham jnani nitya yukta eka bhakti vashishyate. The jnani here is the one who's really serious and he's looking for bhakti like that. And it culminates in bahunam jamanam ande. Those who know the Bhagavad Gita. After many, many births and deaths, those who are wise, they surrender unto me, understanding Vasudeva, myself, is everything. There's no other object of inquiry into knowledge. So here he's saying that if you worship the demigods, you're into the darkest region of ignorance. So this is a pretty heavy statement. I mean, okay, Krishna says you go up and you come down and you're back where you started. He says you go down further. And he says still more so do the worshippers of the so-called absolute. In other words, if you're worshiping the demigods, you're not getting anywhere toward Krishna. Oftentimes you can keep completely bewildered that this is the goal of life. And if the best result is you go up to Indraloka or somewhere and you come back down, you start over again. So you're not making any progress. But if you worship a so-called God and teach that to others, then this is much worse. You see what I'm saying? And this is what the impersonalists do. That's why a lot of this purport, as many purports here, blasting the impersonalists. Because the impersonalists say, no, Krishna is not the ultimate. He's not the absolute truth. He is simply derivative from the Brahma Jyoti, from the Brahman effulgence. That's really the ultimate. Now, I once met a dyed-in-the-wool Mayavadi. Before I came to Krishna consciousness, I was searching here and there, and I went to the Ramakrishna mission. And this was in New York. They had a very nice facility. I'm sure they still have it. Big hall. He was a very fine speaker, this guy. He had been a yogi. He had practiced yoga in the Himalayas, but now he's dressed in a suit and everything. Young guy, maybe in his mid-30s, oldest. And he had replaced the leader of that, ashram, who had been there for years. His name was Nikalananda. He had written the Bhagavad Gita, which I have because our dear Hayagriva Prabhu took some of his translations from him and put it in Prabhupada's Gita. That's another story. And Prabhupada met him. He met this Nikalananda. I came, in 72, so that was 6 years later. By that time, he'd had a stroke. And so they needed a replacement. So the replacement was, he was still alive. He would come to the lunches. He wouldn't say anything, and he would have somebody feed him and this and that. So this impersonalist, they're always looking for new recruits, just like Prabhupada was, And here I was among very few, or maybe a handful, 5 or 6, young men who were coming regularly and reading the books and getting into it, So he was focused on me, Here's somebody who looks together. He's not a hippie, whatever. So anyway, I remember going up to the rooms there, and so he directly said exactly what you read in the books. That the real thing is gyan, bhakti, because they knew I was getting a little attracted to the Hare Krishna, so they were trying to prevent me from that. Bhakti is for the emotional masses, for the emotion, But those who are more refined or intelligent, they search for gyan. It was just what you read in the books. He was doing it. And I didn't know from anything. So, but he had some powers. He told me where I worked. You know, when I was working in a hospital, he told me that. Can you imagine this, the fellow walks off the street and somebody reads your mind like that? You know? Wow, Gurudev, right? I mean, I was almost taken in. But what saved me, and I had even bought the Sharirika Bhashya. Those who read the books, you know, the Sharirika Bhashya is Shankaracharya's commentary on Vedanta Sutra. He'd written a commentary or an explanation of that book, translation. And I had that. I was into books, reading a lot of different books. And so I remember, I think it was around Gaur Purnim. This was March of '73. And of course the Hare Krishnas were all fired up. I think they had some parade or something in the park, Central Park. You know, they had went out there with big kirtan. And I was just getting into it because I was getting attracted to Hare Krishna. And see, Ramakrishna Mission, they're the ones I think who started with this Yatnamat Tatapat. These are different phrases you learn. You've heard Yatnamat Tatapat. Ramapati, you know what Yatnamat Tatapat means, undoubtedly. He knew from when he was 6 years old. He knew what that meant. It means whatever you think, that's your path. Whatever one you would like to go, you can do it everything. So they would have a little of everything in the bookshop. You know, they were mostly impersonalists. But if you wanted bhakti, he had a disciple who was bhakti. This Ramakrishna, who had passed away by that time. And he wrote this book, and so you can get that book. So I had the bhakti book. But then they found out I was going down in the Hare Krishnas. Uh-oh, they're going to suck them in, you know. So after Gaur Purnim, I was all fired up for bhakti and Hare Krishna. And so he started criticizing the devotees. And he's saying, oh, this is sentimentalist, the real thing is Gyan and all this and everything. So he tried to break my attraction to the Hare Krishnas, but instead he broke my attraction to him. And so, luckily, I escaped that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. Who knows where I would have gotten off into this impersonal craziness, you know. And I never read that Sharirika Bhashya. I had it, but by that time I joined. So it's very dangerous, and that's exactly what's being spoken of here. More so, darkest region are those who worship the impersonal absolute, which to a large degree is what the so-called absolute is. So anyway, in the section that we wrote, that we read today, Prabhupada is referring to 720 and 23. So 720, let's see, we have a nice reference here. Yes, I thought it was Kamais Taistai Rita Jnana. So this is in the 7th chapter, which is all about devotional service. And Krishna has explained already, that my material energy, it's my material energy, the Daivi, it's divine, even though it's material because it's connected to me. And Mama Maya, my material energy, Duratya. Duratya means you cannot get over it, you cannot escape from it on your own. Even if you understand, yes, you know, I'm birth and death, life after life, you know, I'm attracted to all these things, how can I break it? You can't do it. The impersonalists try to do that. They don't believe in God. So what strength do they have? Well, whatever strength I can muster, you know, to control my senses and take it away from the enjoyable things of this world. That's why it said that when they perform austerities, Kritrena, they're very severe austerities. I think I mentioned this maybe last class or one of these classes I gave, that we're also trying to take our mind away from the attraction of this world and place it on Krishna. That's essential. That's why people want to know, well, how do you know if you're making an advancement? By how little you're being attracted to Maya. The less you feel attracted to Maya, the things that you used to indulge in and you say, I can't stand them anymore, that's a sign of advancement. But attraction to Krishna has to be there. It's not going to happen one way or the other. So imagine if we didn't have that attraction to Krishna and still trying to withdraw from Maya. You see how impossible it is? You know? Is that... It's all on your strength of will, you know. It's impossible. So that's why the Bhagavatam says they ultimately fall down, these impersonalists. But you even fall down even if you go to heaven. Krishna says. So here he says, Kamais taistai rita jnana papadyante anya devata. They worship other devas besides me. Those whose knowledge has been stolen away by material desire. Kamais. Kamais is plural. All kinds of material desires. Rita jnana steals away your knowledge. You see, covers you up. Anya devata, tam tam niyamamastaya prakata niyataksaya. And they're controlled by their own natures. Whatever mode you happen to be in, that's what you'll worship. If you're in a mode of goodness, you may worship the sun, health, and go out, something in the forest, If you worship in the mode of ignorance, you'll find some, goth, band or something, Or if you're in South America, I remember I used to be in Miami, you'd hear, because there would be a lot of devotees would come up, people go out, and they drink, and then they worship something in a tree or whatever, all kinds of stuff. Anything with Krishna. So all of this is stealing away the knowledge. And then he gets to text 23, which I think is, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Back, 23, it's the same one. They broke it. So, I think Antavat tu palam tesham. Yeah. So there's a little lesson in this 7th chapter. It's very against the demigod worship. Those who worship others, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. They're controlled by their own natures. Whatever they get from that worship, I make their faith strong. You want to worship the tree, You have some whole history. This particular tree, you'll believe it. You'll hang out with people who believe it. Your faith will become strong, and you're ardently worshiping the tree for something, material, of course. And whatever you get from that, or imagine that you get, it's coming from me. I'm doing it. That's a very important point for demigod worship in general. Whatever you're trying to get from Indra, right? This is what this whole temple is dedicated to. Whatever you're trying to get from Surya, from Shiva and everything, they can't give you anything without my sanction. I'm the one who's giving everything. So why go to the clerk when you can come to the original person? Just worship me. You'll get the most valuable thing. That's the whole argument in Gita. So, but here he's describing millions and millions of people who are bewildered by the material energy and worship different varieties of gods and goddesses and everything else. So, I make the faith strong. Whatever you get is actually coming from me. And then he kind of concludes the lesson with Andavatu palam tesham. Those fruits are temporary. Now, we began with the Gita saying, you're permanent, right? You never die. The whole 20 verses, 213 and 222, deal with the eternality of the soul. And that Arjun, you're focusing on the body, and that's, all of these bodily relationships is complete ignorance. Is a sign of you're not a real pundit. He started like. So now I know I'm eternal, and I'm going to strive for something temporary. It's antavatu palam tesham. So that's stupid. And therefore he says, alpamadasham. They're not very smart. Not enough brain substance. Basically, they don't use their head. Why should I strive for something that's temporary when I myself am eternal? You see? I'm sure to be disappointed. Even if I get what I'm looking for, I'm going to go on and die and leave that thing behind, and I'll still be bound up. So then he concludes with this wonderful statement. Devi Devi Joyanti Madbhakta Yanti Mamapi. Those who worship the gods go to the gods, and those who worship me come to me. Now those who know the Bhagavad Gita, this is an echo of the 9th chapter, where he gets Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitu. You worship the gods, you go to the gods. You worship the forefathers, you go to their planet. You worship the ghosts and pretas and the goth and all of that, you'll go to them. You worship me, you come to me. So that worship idea, is important. What does that mean? For us, worship means a whole variety of things. It's not just formal worship. It's really worship at every moment. It's maintaining, calling out to Krishna at every moment and feeling and in helplessness. We're helpless here. We can be swept away at any time by our mind, by this, by that. We need to remember Krishna at every moment. So that kind of worship is the kind that will definitely take us to Krishna. It's equivalent to remembering him at every moment. But it has more than just remembrance. Remembrance is almost like a meditative thing. It's remembrance and prayer at the same time, mixed up together. And that's, really what we're looking for. And when we talk about worship, I like to bring up this verse from the personified Vedas. I don't know if anyone else has memorized this verse in the history of ISKCON. But when we went through the whole Bhagavatam, this is our second trip through, I think, since I've been here. At least, maybe third since I've been here. But so we went through the 10th canto, 11th canto, 12th canto, and now we're back to the first canto. Now we're on the 4th canto. So when we came to the 10th canto, chapter 87, that's the prayers of personified Vedas. This board was way too small to write that verse on there. There's no way. It's the longest verses in the Bhagavatam. So there's one that really caught my attention very much. I memorized a bunch of them now. They're kind of in there. But this is a very, they're full of wonderful philosophy. Twadanupatam kulayam idamapma surit priyavat. Chadati taton muketvihi te priyatmanicha. Nabadadamanda ho asadupasanayatmahano yadunushayabhrame kurushadira. But I forget the last line exactly. Sorry. So what he's saying here is that the human body, they're praying to Mahavishnu before the universe begins, all these personified Vedas. The human body is especially suited to worshiping you, my Lord. And one who worships you with the human body becomes their best friend, a source of great joy. It's just like paraphernalia. Just like all of the paraphernalia we use to worship. It's none different. We have the eyes, the ears, the senses, everything. So then everything is nicely in order, and you're instructing from within the heart, the super soul, and everything is good. But on the other hand, nabadadamantaho asadupasanaya mahano. Those who fail to take their pleasure in worshiping you. It's interesting he uses that point. Asadupasanaya. They worship the impermanent. Asat upasanaya. Upasana literally means worship. And what's the result? Atmahano. It's like committing suicide for the soul. Now you can't kill the soul, but you can bury the soul for millions of years in lower bodies and so forth. It's equivalent to death in this context. Asadupasana yatmahano yadnushaye bamantu baye kushadira, but that's it. Uru baye kushadira. And instead of having this auspicious human body, especially that human body which has association with devotees, which can be you can use it for Krishna service. You're wandering in so many different bodies. Kusharira means bad bodies, subhuman bodies, which cause great fear, which all bring great fear ultimately. And so this is the choice we have. We have the rare few in this world. I mean, how many? There's 7.5 billion people on the earth. How many really take seriously? I mean, even if they've heard of Krishna consciousness or religion, the idea of completely escaping from round of birth and death and everything. It's even in India. It's not everybody for sure. So we have a human body, and among the human species, human bodies, there's a very rare few who even consider these things. What to speak of strive for it. So we should take it seriously, and be careful that we don't get sucked into worshipping something other than Krishna, or cultivating ignorance instead of knowledge. Always try to remain fixed in Krishna consciousness and follow the instructions we've been so amply given by our great acharyas and sadhus in the books. This is what I'm getting from this verse. A lot of, probably mostly what we read is this idea that it's foolish to worship the demigods, anything other than Krishna. Prabhupada quotes this famous verse, Brahma Bhuvanaloka. Even up to Brahma Loka, he lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years, well, that's good enough, I'll go up there. No, but if you go there, you're not assured of going back to Godhead from there even. That's what this verse says. Even up to Brahma, these are places of return, birth and death. But one who comes to me never comes back. Mamupetu dukondriya punarjanma navijate. So it's a challenge, because we live in a world that's completely absorbed in the temporary titillations of Maya and illusions. Maya Sukhaya, flickering illusory happiness. And that's all people know, and it's so all-pervasive. I mean, since I've been alive, some of you are young enough, you don't remember a time when there wasn't cell phones, And I guess maybe you don't remember. But that's like revolutionary. To have in your hand access to the entire world at all times, And it's so tempting. There's a million different things you can get into and stay absorbed, and you can see people walking down the street. You have to watch how they get hit by a car. It's insanity, It's so maddening. It's kind of a madness, and there's so much loneliness because people are relating to others through this machine, and it's so artificial, and people are preening on there, and you say, I don't measure up, So the FOMO, the fear of missing out, without what happened to my phone? It ran out of juice. I may miss out 10 minutes, a half an hour. It's insane. When I grew up, there's nothing like that. We had the dial phones, In fact, I think I remember the first time I called the phone, I had to get the operator, Yeah, I remember that era where it's a party line, whatever. It's ancient history. But it meant that your relationships were much more organic with people, Now it's all mediated through all this insanity. So, but in spite of course, there's also an upside to that. You can press a few buttons and you're attending Mangalartik here in New Govardhan or in Vrindavan or New Vrindavan. You get the schedule. You could spend your whole day attending Mangalartik, probably. So the point is, this is the age of access as well for devotees, but it's also very dangerous, and we have to be careful where we place our mind and worship. Okay, it's 8:30. Any discussion on these points? Okay, Heather, now's the time. I'm sorry? Hold on, there's a mic. Hold on, you're going to speak into a mic now.
With the cell phones, they're keeping you focused on the external world. It's outside. They're not telling you go inside. Everything is inside. Yeah. Krishna's giving you everything inside. So in a way, they're teaching people to become paraplegics, dependent on a technological system.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We got it. That's a good point. Very dramatic. Yeah, please.
So you mentioned earlier that worship means to focus your attention on something
or
someone.
That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with the intention of getting something.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You also said that why worship
and glorification and request, your prayer.
So why worship something else or someone when you can come to the original person? So someone asked me something, and a devotee, a new devotee, and I answered to the best of my knowledge, but I feel like I was limited, So, and it was about Srila Prabhupada, that why we should worship Srila Prabhupada. Why not go directly to Krishna?
Uh-huh.
And the question was, do you feel that you have to go to Srila Prabhupada to get to Krishna? And so it's basically about paying obeisances. It's like this devotee is not understanding why pay obeisances. It's needed to Srila Prabhupada. So if you can...
well, here, I can try to answer that. Prabhupada would give the example. First of all, we have to have this faith, just as we never die, nobody ever dies. And Srila Prabhupada is definitely able, even at this point, even though he's long out of that particular body we knew him in, he's still with us. He's very much with us. And you can get his blessing and his mercy and like that. And especially he's with us through his words that he always said, Vapu and Vani. This became very prominent in 1977, the last year when he was, with us on this planet. Okay, Vapu and Vani, I get it. There's personal association where, he's getting a massage and feeding him and, everything, and listening to him personally, which is invaluable. Those moments are precious. There's no question about it. But they're fleeting. I had a great fortune to see Prabhupada personally 4 or 5, 6 times, and I actually talked to him once. And when I got my Gayatri mantra in Vrindavan, actually in Vrindavan, so that was very fortunate. But mostly I was relating to Prabhupada through his books. Working on his books, reading his books, like that. I'm still doing that, and I very much feel his presence in all those recordings. So the main point is that we cannot perceive Krishna directly. He's spiritual. Our senses are material. Atak Shri Krishna Namani Nabhavegrayam Indriyai. That's a verse I would quote all the time. It's quoted at least once in the Bhagavad Gita. I think Rupa Goswami wrote that. Shri Krishna Namadi. Shri Krishna's name, etc. There's 4 things. Name, form, qualities, pastimes. They're progressively realized. You can realize them all just by chanting Hare Krishna. But the idea is that each one of them is absolute. If you chant Krishna's name, you're associating with Krishna. Now, the more that you focus and you actually understand that and you're pure, the more you'll feel Krishna's presence. But He's there in His name. He's there in His form. He's there in His everything. So, but still, we need a personal relationship in order to become fixed in devotional service. Because there's all of these pseudo-personal relationships and things that in the material world that'll drag our mind away. So the personal relationship, not only with the Acharya, the Mahabhagavat, but also other devotees who are his students, who are advanced, who can help us to relate to Krishna. How does this temple go on? How do people learn about Krishna? Through devotees. The devotee gives them the book, then they have Prabhupada, but it's good to come to the class, learn the explanation of the book, how to actually live according to the book. Examples. If Prabhupada just sent his books, those original Bhagavatams by post to America, there'd be no movement, right? He came and he personified the book. He was the living Bhagavat. Remember the verse we chant every day for the Bhagavatam? I do anyway. Many devotees, Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavajutama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. That by hearing about Krishna from within, He is purifying. He purifies us of the dirt, which is preventing us from seeing ourselves and seeing Him. It's all just a question of purification. So when that purification has gone on for some time, and you're quite pure, not completely, Nashta Prayeshu. Nashta means destroyed. When the impurities are destroyed almost completely, or to a large extent, prayeshu, abhadreshu. Abhadras and anarthas are the same. Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, by regularly serving the Bhagavat. 2 kinds of Bhagavat, Prabhupada emphasizes. The book Bhagavat, Bhagavat Purana or Bhagavatam, and the person Bhagavat, the Maha Bhagavat. Both are there. This is the Bhagavatam saying that. Then one can become more purified and actually rise up to the platform of goodness and even pure goodness. And he goes on from there. And ultimately leading to seeing God, seeing Krishna, and becoming completely free of attachment to this world. Just a few verses later. So in the Bhagavatam and throughout the Shastras, we sing every morning, Sakshad Haridvena Samasta Shastra, that the pure devotee is on the platform of Hari. He's been given that mantle and that power by Krishna to represent Him. Because he's pure, he's not going to deviate. The students, you know what I mean? But Prabhupada used the example of the pure, you would call it the via medium, the pure via medium. The medium, we had this idea, I don't know if it's still current, the pure channel. No more they have channeling, but remember channeling. A lot of it was bogus. I'm channeling this guru from 1,000,000 years ago. Give me the money. But Prabhupada really is channeling. All the great devotees, they're channeling Krishna. And so he says, you can't come. You have to serve my spiritual master, my disciple, my pure disciple, in order to come to me. It's intuitive. You can say, you want to meet a great man, the President of the United States. Well, all right. President of the United States. I don't know. Let's give another example. Let's say you want to meet the Pope. Okay, the Pope. You can't just walk in there to the Vatican and say knock on his door. He's got so many people. Do you have an appointment? No. Well, then you can't. You have to make an appointment with his secretary. Well, who are you? He says, oh, well, I'm, I knew him when or whatever. In other words, there's some qualification you have where he admits you in. But there's an intermediary. So similarly, Krishna has all these ambassadors, the pure devotees, who can give him to you. They can give you access, to receive the mantra from Srila Prabhupada. to hear him chant, and then chant in that way, and approach according to the instructions he's given, which are all, of course, coming from the Shastra, and follow his example, and then you're pleasing Krishna. You can be confident of it, and you can feel the power and the benefit. That's the idea, is that there has to be, and bowing down is so important, because our whole disease is this false ego, this pride. I know. That doesn't make any sense to me. Well, who are you? In other words, this is like what's the foundation of our faith? We have to have faith, to pick up the beads every day. So I always like to think of the parampara. Of course, Srila Prabhupada is enough. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all the way back, and these others, Ramanujacharya, basically the same. They all say it. Who am I to deny it? That Krishna exists, that there's this world, that there's these Leela described in the Bhagavatam are real. Don't we want to live in that world rather than just, the world of our own sensations or whatever we can figure out, which is just dull and madness. It's madness. So I may not understand it, but I have enough faith in Srila Prabhupada to follow the process, which includes obeisances, saying the mantras, learning what. In other words, all of that, if I follow it, just like if you follow a recipe nicely, you're going to get the result. Otherwise, you start speculating, it's not going to work. So that's the answer. There's a lot more to it, but the main thing is that a process has been delineated to give us access to that which is beyond our ken to understand. If we want to understand the transcendental Lord, then we have to approach those who have understood and who have, out of their mercy, are coming into our plane and are speaking language we can understand and giving us instruction. And so without that essential humility and understanding,